Thank you, Madam Chair. Congratulations to all of the nominees. I ask the following two initial questions of all nominees before any of the committees who come before me. So I will ask the panel en masse. Since you became a legal adult, have you ever made unwanted requests for sexual favors or committed any verbal or physical harassment or assault of a sexual nature?
No.
No.
Have you ever faced discipline or entered into a settlement related to this kind of conduct?
No.
No.
Senator.
For Mr. Sams, congratulations in particular on your historic nomination to become the first Native American to lead the National Park Service, and you have a long history of public service that makes you well suited for this position. During your time at Trust for Public Land, you worked with groups in Hawaii, including the Office of Hawaiian Affairs, to facilitate the acquisition of lands for protection, like the Wauakele-Opuna Forest on Hawaii Island and the Waimea Valley on Oahu. Through those efforts, I'm sure you quickly learned not only how unique Hawaii is, but the importance of relationships in the state. And that experience will serve you well in your new role. Madam Chair, I have a letter of support from a number of Native Hawaiian organizations on Mr. Sams's nomination, which I would like to enter into the record.
Without objection.
Mr. Sams, I know that your testimony makes mention of your commitment to consulting various stakeholders if confirmed, but based on your experience, what opportunities do you see for the National Park Service to enhance the partnerships with indigenous communities in terms of increasing visitation, representation within the workforce, telling of their stories, and incorporation of indigenous views in decision-making?
Thank you, Senator. I appreciate the question. Yes, I think that it's a great opportunity to express America's history in its broadest aspect. You know, I've watched the changes over the years. When we looked at I've been to the Custard Battlefield when it was still the battlefield before it became, more of a memorial. I've watched the growth of America as a whole to be able to talk about the history openly and honestly. I look forward to working with Native communities across the United States, whether that's in your home state of Hawaii or Alaskan Natives and throughout the U.S. territories, to make sure that the story can be told as broadly as possible. And I think it's important to be able to work with Native folks on traditional ecological knowledge and helping manage those spaces so that we're conserving them based on 10,000 plus years of management of those spaces to ensure that they'll be here for future generations to enjoy.
So if confirmed, I look forward to the kind of specific outreach that you will engage in with indigenous groups. Particularly, I don't know if you have a copy of the letter that I just put into the record, but there are a number of Native Hawaiian groups that you have worked with over time. For Mr. Crabtree, President Biden established the Justice 40 initiative to ensure that at least 40% of the overall benefits from federal investments in climate and clean energy go to disadvantaged communities. If you are confirmed, how would you apply that initiative to address the pollution burden that fossil fuel plants place on their neighboring communities?
Senator Hirono, thank you for the question. Environmental justice has to be a core commitment in everything we do in implementing the programs of the Department of Energy and the Office of Carbon Management, Fossil Energy and Carbon Management in particular. The types of projects that are supported by the office are indeed with facilities that have impacts beyond carbon emissions, be they power plants or industrial facilities. And there are communities that live in close proximity to these facilities. I mentioned in my testimony that carbon capture technologies and carbon utilization technologies do have some benefits beyond reducing carbon emissions in terms of air pollutants and other types of pollutants. You have to manage those pollutants in terms of the carbon capture technologies themselves. That said, there are other pollutants that have burdened communities for generations that are not affected. And it's incumbent upon on the administration and on me in my role in this office in terms of the demonstration projects and others that move forward to make sure that we're taking those extra steps, mitigation practices, additional technologies and investments to make sure that we're reducing that burden on communities. And I would also add that it's not just environmental, it's economic. There's an opportunity working across government, other parts of the DOE, other agencies, to make sure that the jobs that are created through these projects, that members of communities that live on the front lines actually have the opportunity to get some of those jobs.
Mr. Crabtree, based on your answer just now, it seems that you have given thought to how you're going to implement this initiative on the part of the president. So if confirmed, I would really want to know specifically what you are doing in this area and, how the communities are benefiting. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.